Hakadosh, Erev Tov, Masechet Gittin Daf, Ayin Tet Amud Aleph, 79a1 Mishnah. Hayta omedet al Rosh Hagag uzrakola. Imagine right now she's on top of the roof, which the roof belongs to her, and he threw her the get from the chatzer, right below, which belongs to him. Kevan shehiya la'avir Hagag, once it gets to the airspace of the roof, hareze megoreshet, she is going to be divorced, even if afterwards it disappears and it didn't actually land anywhere. There's the second was in the airspace of the roof. That's good enough. Hu milmala v'hi milmata. What happens if he's on the gag and she's on the chatzer below? Milmata, right? Uzrakola. And what happens is he comes and he throws it. So kevan shiatza min reshut gag, once it goes out to the reshut of the possession of the gag of the roof, nimchak. If it was erased by the rain or nisraf or was burnt, hareze megureshet, she is going to be divorced. Says the Gemara, says 1 second, I don't understand you. If he threw it and it went up onto the what? Onto the airspace of the roof. He says nobody's watching over it. So if nobody's watching over it, why in the world are you going to now come and say that it's going to be okay? So he says, Amar Rav Yudah Mar Shmuel begag sheyesh lo ma'akeh askina. No, there's a ma'akeh. You know that there's a chovah to put a ma'akeh. What's a ma'akeh? A fence around the roof. So therefore, since there's a chovah to put a ma'akeh around the roof, so that's why, right? It's considered ki'ilu that it's protected, and therefore it's going to be okay. Ula bar menashia mishme davimi amar. Ula bar menashia said in the name of Avimi. Hacha, here we're talking about bepachot mishosha samuch l'gag askina. The get went in the height of the airspace of the gag of the roof within 3 tfachim. And we know that anything which is going to be within 3 tfachim from the airspace, the chol pachot mishosha samuch l'gag. It's considered that it already reached the roof. That means even though it didn't actually go on the roof, but the fact that it's within the 3, so that's going to be considered. Okay, next. Humilmala. We said that if he's on the roof on the top, and she's on the chatzer on the bottom, and he threw it to her, once it goes outside of the gag into the chatzer, it's going to be megureshet. She's going to be divorced. Says the Gemara, the same question. Nobody's watching over it. Remember, basically, when you give over a get, it has to be protected. It has to be in an enclosed area, something that she could actually take hold of. If it's going to be stam in the air, right? You go on top of the CN tower, you throw it. You're going to say, no, it's going to be protected. It's in the thin air. It's in the sea. What's it going to help you?
Like when we said that she was looking over the slave.
So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, says Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav, Amar Shmuel, כגון שהיו מחיצות תחתונות עודפות, for example, the מחיצות, right, תחתונות, right, were עודפות מעל, right, he comes and he says, מעל העליונות, בשבילך. Yeah, what does that mean? He comes and he says, the get was coming out of the Reshut Gag, it was coming immediately into the mechitzot of the chatzer, meaning, from the gag immediately came into the chatzer. What does that mean? You've got the bottom one, they have walls, and the walls protruded even above the gag. So therefore, when it comes out of the gag, immediately it's inside the mechitzot of the chatzer. And therefore, since it's immediately inside the mechitzot of the chatzer, so therefore you don't have to worry about it because it's already going to be protected. And therefore, she acquires the get immediately. So, Amaleh Rabbi Abba Levula says, Rabbi Abba Levula, Keman, who does this go like Rabbi? Tamar, then he says, Kiluta Kemishu Damya. Something which is going to be grabbed in the airspace of a Reshut Yachid, it's like it's on the ground. That means even though it never actually reached the ground, but the fact that it's in the airspace of the Reshut Yachid, it's already Reshut Yachid. So, Amar Ula comes and he says, Afilu Teima Rabbanan. Even if you're going to tell me it's going to be like the rabbis. When does the rabbis argue on Rabbi? Only to do with Shabbat. But here, it's because it has to be guarded. It's already guarded. Like Rabbi, that he says, okay. Says the Gemara, Elmaleh comes and he says, Afilu Teimar Rabbanan, even if you're going to tell me it's the rabbis, that they argue on Rabbi and they hold that if it's in the middle of the airspace, it's not like it landed. When do the rabbis argue on Rabbi? Ela linyan Shabbat. only to do with the Yan Shabbat. Aval mishum inturahu, right? But here it has to do with, meaning to do the kinyan chatzer, it has to do with it's protected, and it's protected. Fine. Nekuda. Now we're talking about when it got erased. Imagine it got erased midair. Amrav Nachman Amravua lo shanu lan shimchak derech yirida. That's only if it got erased on the way down. Aval imchak derech aliyah. But if it got erased on the way up, it's not a get. Meaning like this: you're throwing it upwards, and then it goes downwards, like the picture. Everyone has a picture. Yep, you can't see it. There you go. You see the picture, right? It's going upwards and then downwards. So if it gets erased on the way down, it's a good get. Why? Because once it started going down into the property, it's already part of the property. But if it got erased going upwards, so then it's not going to be a good get. He says, why? My tama, what's reasoning? Because at the beginning, the get was not going to land on the ground, but rather it was going further away, meaning by gravity. When you throw up, at the beginning, it's going away from you, and then it goes closer to you. So when it was going away from you, if it got erased, it was already not a get when it was coming closer to you. Because when it was coming down, it was already erased. So it has to be that it's erased going down. Because if it's going to be erased going up, it doesn't help. How does it get erased? Let's say it starts raining. But pouring rain, not pouring. Yeah, Masechet Ta'anit. Sha'ata. Yeah. Crazy rain. And then it got soaked. It got erased. Fine. Nisraf, burnt. Amrav Nachman Avua, lo shanu l'shkadam get lideka. That's only if the get went into the chatzer before it got on fire. But if the fire went to the get before it went into the airspace of the chatzer, it's not going to be a good get. My tama, because it was going to be burnt immediately. Same thing. If it's going to be burnt immediately, nothing what to do. Amar Rav Chastas says Rav Chastas, right? Reshuyot chalukot begitin. Do you know that there's going to be two different properties to do with gitin? So Amaleh Mimerchama Leraba, Menale Lesabahar. How do we know this exactly? Amaleh tells him Matniti Nitzar Mishnahi. Haital Medet Rosh Hagag Uzrakola. If he was on Rosh Hagag, yeah, and he threw it to her. Kevan Shehiya Gel Avira Gag. Once it got to the airspace of the Gag, Harezu, she's divorced. Maiskin, what are we dealing with? If we're talking about Begag Dida with her roof and his chatzer and his courtyard, why does it have to get to the Avira Gag? Right? Why does it have to be divorced? One, since the chatzer also belongs to her, it automatically belongs to her. Why does it have to get to the airspace of the Gag? But rather, it's Gag Dideh, his Gag, and it's her chatzer. Sorry, everything's his. His Gag and his chatzer. So if it got to the Avira Gag, if it got to the roof, so what do I care? Ela Pshita, it has to be her roof and his chatzer. So let's see the Seifa. He's on the top and she's on the bottom. He throws it to her. Once it comes outside of the Gag, if it got erased or burnt, she's divorced. Now, if we're talking about the Gag belongs to her and the chatzer belongs to him, why is she divorced? It doesn't make sense. It was the exact opposite. You flipped it. Why is she divorced? If the top part is hers and the husband's on the top and he throws it into the chatzer and the chatzer belongs to the husband, why is she divorced? Ella, the roof belongs to him and the chatzer belongs to her. So Reisha, so he says, I don't understand you. The first part of the Mishnah, the Gag belongs to her, chatzer belongs to him. And then the second case, the Gag belongs to him and the chatzer belongs to her. What's going on here? Doesn't make sense. Elalav, rather, de'osh lamakom. He lent her a space. A person will only lend out one space, not two spaces. Meaning, if I'm going to lend you out, no, but it's considered two different spaces. There's the chatzer and the Gag. There's the courtyard and the roof. So he's only going to lend her. No, but it's not the same place. One's a roof and one's a courtyard. Oh. So he says, because of that, he says, a person will never lend out two spaces. He'll lend out one space. So Amaleh, he says, maybe each one is different. Maybe like what you said. The Reisha, the Gag is hers. The former part of the Mishnah, the Gag, the roof is hers. Chatzer is his. And in the Seifa, the exact opposite. Rava says, Shalosh Mido Begitin. There are three different dinim to do with Gitin. Hadam Rebbe says, Kluta Kenishuncha. Right? What does that mean? That if it's going to be niklat, if it's going to be grabbed into the avir of the Reshut Echid, it's like it's on the floor. The rabbi is arguing this. Elmaleh, Ninyan Shabbat. But to do with here, mishum inturehu, it's another reshut v'amintar, and it's already protected. So says the Gemara, Hadam Rav Chassa, that's what Rav Chassa says. Natz kaneh b'reshut yechid uvrosho traskal. Imagine right now, you are in the reshut ayachid, private property. You come, you put in a stick. Boom, a stick inside. On the top, you put a basket. So on top of this, you have a basket. You're in reshut ayachid, private property, but you put a stick, and on the top, a basket. V'zarak v'nachal gabav. You threw something, and you hit bullseye. Swish, bullseye. You know what bullseye is?
No.
You got it inside the basket.
La cible. Bullseye, c'est le centre de la cible.
Yeah, or a swish. You know what a swish is? When you take the ball, you throw it inside. It doesn't even hit the rim or any of the back, and nothing. Straight inside the hole. Straight inside. Right? Boom, right inside the basket. Yeah? You have to teach them even about
target.
Yeah? You hit the target.
I wonder how you know that.
Yeah? So he says, yeah? So he says, V'nachal gabav. Afilu gavoa mea amat. Even if it was going to be 100 amot tall. But I know you know how to play good basketball. You know, whoops. Yeah? All the way up there. Yeah, 100 amot. Chayav, you're going to be chayav. Why? The reshut hayachid ole ad rakia. The reshut hayachid goes up to the shamayim. Hanemilu, one of these words only to do with Shabbat. But here, mishum inturehu, v'alo mintar. It has to be with protection. It's not protected. What does that mean? To do with the reshut hayachid on Hilchot Shabbat, the private domain goes until the shamayim. And since it goes into the shamayim, if I'm on the public and I do I can't do a slam dunk, it's in the private domain. But I'm in the public domain and I come, whoo, and I go for the shot.
In the private domain.
And it's in the private domain, even though it was 100 amot tall. I'm going to say, listen, you're already going for the seventh heaven. No. The reshut hayachid goes all the way up. And since it goes all the way up, what happens?
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
No,
Why? It goes all the way up. So therefore, you just were chayav. Why were you chayav? Because you threw it from the public domain to private domain. Because since it goes all the way up to the shamayim, that's it. He says, however, though, right? He says that's only to do with Shabbat, but not to do with a get. Get, it has to be protected. Here it's protected. There's no problem. Okay? Ayin teta mubet, 79b. So says the Gemara, what's the midash shlishit? Because this was to do with the second one. That had to do with the reshut hayachid goes all the way up to the Shabbat, to Shemayim for Shabbat, but not by the Gittin. Now the third one, right? Sorry, that was the second one. Okay, and right, the first one had to do with right. The third one is the Amar of Yudah Mashmuel lo yamod adam begag zeh v'yiklot min geshamim yigago shel chavero. שכשם שהדיורים חלוקים למטה, כך הדיורים חלוקים מלמעלה. What does that mean? He comes and he says like this. This is to do with Isurei Shabbat. Yeah? He comes and he says like this. He says, right? Yeah? Il est fait de dos. Il est dormir. Yeah? So he comes and he says like this. He says, "Lo ya'amod adam begag shelo." A person cannot stand in his own roof and grab the water which is in the gag of his friend. Why? Because just like the houses are different, right? So too, and therefore each house is considered separate to do the Hilchot Shabbat. So too, the roofs are considered separate, and therefore you cannot move things from one roof to another roof on Hilchot Shabbat. But Elmaleh is only Shabbat. To do the get, it's because of kfeida. Yeah, and therefore, people are not makpid. Meaning, to do with if it's going to be from one roof to another roof, people are not makpid going from one roof to another roof. So if there's no problem. So Amar Abaye comes and he says, when you have two chatzerot, one is inside of the other one, the inner one belongs to her and the outer one belongs to him. And the outer ones are above the inner ones. And he throws it to her. Once it gets already to the airspace, she's divorced. My time, what's reasoning? The inner space is protected because of the mechitzot of the outer one, which means the mechitzot which are on the outside are also protecting the inner one, right? That it's not going to fly away. But what we're going to be talking about now, the kupot, when you have two different kupot, one inside of the other one, Talking about the inner one and the outer one, and he throws it. Even if he got into the inner one, she's not going to be divorced. My time, what's the reasoning? Because it didn't land. So if it didn't land, there's nothing there. So I asked the Gemara, but even if it did land, what do I care? He says, right? You remember we learned this concept yesterday. When a person has the kelim of the lokeach in the reshut of the mocher, you went into Publix with your bag, and you put the utensils in your bag. That is called kelim shel lokeach, belongs to the purchaser, in the reshut of the mocher, of the seller. You're still in Public's property, right? Public's property. Yeah. So he says, Achmaskina answers the Gemara, Bekupa she'en la shulaim. We're talking about a kupa that has no bottom part, and therefore it comes out that it's on the floor, and that's why it's not considered right inside the reshut of the kupa chitzonit. Therefore, the inner one acquires the get according to everybody, because the inner one, right, does not have. If it doesn't have shulaim, if it doesn't have any tachtit, any, how do you call this, like any bottom part, so therefore it goes directly inside. Okay, fine. Mishnah. The Mishnah on Ayin Tetamu Bet. Bet Shammai Omrim. Bet Shammai says, Poter Adam Ishto Beget Yashan. What does that mean? A man could give his wife a get Yashan and he'll free her. Bet Hillel Osim. Bet Hillel says, no. What is called a get Yashan? Ezu get Yashan. Kol Shenitiyached Ima Melcha Shekatvu Lo. If he had yichud with her after he wrote it. If he wrote the get and then afterwards he was secluded himself with her, Kaddish. Why? Because once he secluded himself with her, there's nothing to talk about.
It's not old, it's void, no?
Well, yes, but it's considered like old because now you can't use it anymore. Yeah. Because basically, once he was with her again, that's it. It's old. So says the Gemara, but my people get what's a machloke between them, between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Bet Shammai savre lo omnin gezerah shem yomru gita kodem livna. Nobody, we're not going to make a gezerah. Maybe people are going to say that her get was before her child. And Bet Hillel say we do make a gezerah. Shema yomru gita kodem livna. So says the Gemara, what does that mean? That means maybe we're going to say that she became pregnant with a znut from her husband after she got divorced. Meaning like this, you remember in the olden days, people were very makpid that they had to have a child in wedlock. Wedlock means wedding, lock. They had to be married. Nowadays, people don't care. Even if your child is born out of the wedding, we don't care. In the olden days, if a child was born out of, people would come, and if she was pregnant, they would get married, right? Just so that way, Keilu, when the child is born, they're already married. Even though, why? Because they didn't want her to give birth and she had a child without a wedding. It was like how do you call it? It was like a disgrace. Yeah. Also ben anida. Yeah. So what happens? So he comes and he says, maybe we're going to come and we're going to say, 1 second, how is it that she has a get yashan? Get yashan means that he wrote the get and then he had relations with her. But if he already gave her the get, 1 second, we make a calculation. 1 second, when did she get the get? She got the get in January. How's she all of a sudden pregnant? What's going on? That means she had relations with him after she got the get. What? It wasn't enough that after she's still fooling around. She should have stayed married. What's she doing? Comes Bet Hillel and he says, no, we don't want these things. We don't want that people are going to start saying that she had znut after she already got the get, and after this, and that, then she became pregnant. No. Because of that, he writes the get. If he's by himself with her, get yashan. You can't use the get. Throw it out in the garbage. Get it out. Get rid of it. Amar Rabbi Abraham Shmuel. It says the Gemara Niset lo tetzeh. But if she got married, she doesn't get divorced. If she already got divorced, she can even lechatchila get married with this get. Okay. Next Mishnah. The Mishnah. We're only going to start the Mishnah, and then we'll have to finish it. Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow. Okay, because it's a long Mishnah. The Mishnah starts, Katav l'shum malchut she'ena ugenet. Imagine right now the Sofer comes and he writes the get for the time of a malchut romi, which was a malchut, which wasn't proper. So they come and they write down however amount of years or whatever it is, according to the thing. Or l'shum malchut madai, yavan. He started writing down, or lebinyar bayit, lechurban bayit, for the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, the building of the Bet HaMikdash. Hayab b'mizrach v'tab b'marav. He was in the east and he wrote down that he wrote the get in the west. Or in the west, in the east, right? In all these cases, the get is pasul. Why? Because the venue or the date we don't acknowledge it, and therefore, since it was wrong or completely, something that we don't, so it's not good. She has to get divorced from both husbands. She needs a get from both husbands. She doesn't get ketubah, she doesn't get perot, she doesn't get mizonot, she doesn't get blaot, she doesn't get the clothing, parnasa, fruits, ketubah, nada. She gets nothing. Lo alzev lo zeh, not on the first husband, not on the second husband. If she took it, she has to give it back. The child is a mamzer from both of them. Why? Because she didn't get a get. They don't become tameter. If they're a kohanim and she died, they don't become tameter. Nobody's going to be zocheh, not in her mitziyata, whatever she finds, not in whatever she works or salary, not in afarat nidarim. Hayta bat Yisrael, if she was a bat Yisrael, she becomes tula to the kihuna. She can never get married to a kohen. But Levi, she's not allowed to have maaser. But kohen, she's not allowed to have teruma. Ve'en yorshin shel zev yorshin. Nobody could take her ketubah. V'metu, and if the husbands die, achiv shel zev, they could only do chalitza, not yibum. And this is what we're going to continue with Hashem tomorrow.